Welcome back to another Courage session. We are so excited. I know I say this every time, but I'm extremely excited to welcome the Sam Houston State University College of Osteopathic Medicine today. I know I bring this up anytime we talk to anybody from El Paso, but I'm also an alumnus of the Sam Houston State University, so I'm super excited to welcome them. And of course, and maybe only the non-traditional students will catch this reference, but they're the new kids on the block. Whoa. And so we're super excited to get them on to talk about the philosophy of the establishment of the school, and then of course addressing all of your questions for this school. So Courtney, would you mind introducing yourself, and then we'll go with Rebecca.
Hi, my name is Courtney West. I'm the Associate Dean for Educational Affairs for the new COM at Sam Houston State University. And I also currently serve as the admissions chair. And so it's been a great opportunity to be here from what was close to the beginning to see we're starting our first class, and orientation starts on Monday.
Excellent.
Awesome. And I'm Rebecca Gay. I'm the Assistant Director of Admissions. I came on board at the College of Osteopathic Medicine in March, but I've worked for Sam Houston State University for the last 11 years. And like Dr. West said, we do have our students starting orientation next week. It's our inaugural class, and we are so excited to have them here.
That's excellent. And you know, talking about the inaugural class, that's one of the key questions for new schools. It's like, what does the profile of a student look like for your new class? And so kind of one of the burning questions that I know a lot of students have are, could you walk us through the profile of that new entering class?
Yeah, so right now we are kind of holding our new class profile to ourselves until they make it through our census date, which is the 12th class day. But we do have a very diverse group of students. We have some non-traditional students part of our first class, and we are just really excited about this group that came together. I think it's going to be really great. They have already started interacting with each other long before we ever established a communication channel for them. And so they've really created some bonds, and I'm excited to see what they do with their time with us.
Excellent. Could you remind me what the class size was for the inaugural class?
Yeah, so the inaugural class is 75 students.
Awesome. So that's a pretty sizable class to start off with. Yeah. So, knowing the nature of, setting up a school, we've seen a lot of new schools established just in the past few years here in Texas. But we also know that the university systems that establish the schools have a lot to do with it. We learned about that from Mr. Maldonado, the Texas A&M College of Medicine, where the Aggie values come into play in the admissions process. So as the first medical school for the Texas State University system, what kind of qualities, values come into play as being a part of the first medical school for that system?
Yeah, that is a really good question. So the Texas State University system was the first university system in Texas. So it has a very long-standing history of service. And then here at Sam Houston, we have been around since 1879. And so we also have a long history. But one of the things that, well, I'll mention two things. The first is we have been meeting the needs of Texas for a long time. We first started as an institution to produce educators, and we continue to do that to this day. And then when the law enforcement community needed additional support in their areas, we are also known for our College of Criminal Justice. There are a lot of programs at Sam Houston that have really been set up as a way to meet those workforce needs in Texas. And so I see the College of Osteopathic Medicine answering that call again and answering that shortage of physicians in Texas, specifically in rural Texas. And then secondly, I would say that the university's motto is the measure of a life is its service. And so a lot of what we base our values on is service. And I'll let Dr. West add anything to that. But to me, those are two of the ways that Sam Houston is serving the community.
And I agree with that completely. We are service oriented, and again, a measure of the life is a service is the motto, and it's really ingrained in the university. And the COM is just an extension of that. The COM exists because of an evaluation of the stakeholders in our service area, and what that yielded was that there's workforce needs in healthcare. And so our health professions have expanded, not just the new College of Osteopathic Medicine, but our nursing programs as well. And so that is, again, in response to those needs.
Now, you mentioned, the location obviously plays a big part in the makeup of the new school. Can you tell me the role of how the north of Houston up to Huntsville area, that whole area, comes into play, and even into East Texas?
Yeah, so I'll let Dr. West touch on that, just because that was part of the process, the foundation of the institution. So
Right.
I'll let her.
So our campus is located in Conroe, in what used to be a Boy Scout camp. And so Johnson Development provided donated land for the building. And so when you're thinking of Conroe, it's in Montgomery County, and there are some areas like the Woodlands that are fairly close that do have, quite a few hospitals and providers and things like that. But Montgomery County as a whole, there are areas that are rural and underserved. In addition to that, just in our area, and again, up to Huntsville and other areas in East Texas, we have different clinical training facilities that are located in different regions throughout the state. So students will do third and fourth year rotations in locations like Lufkin, Nacogdoches, Beaumont, Port Arthur, Corsicana, Ennis area, as well as, of course, Montgomery County. And so we do have different clinical training regions in the eastern, primarily eastern region of Texas.
Excellent, thank you. And Dr. West, you do have a shout out from Ann Smith from TCOM, just to show how everybody's here. Hi, Ann. Thanks for joining us today.
Well, yes, thank you for joining us.
So one of the questions that we asked of our Facebook group is, what kind of questions do you have for the Sam Houston State group? And one of them was, what if you don't necessarily have an interest in rural health? Should this still be a school that they should apply to?
So I definitely think that you should apply. We are obviously looking for students who do have an interest in rural and underserved areas, but we don't exclude anyone. We do want a very diverse and well-rounded group of students. And so we aren't looking for everyone to have that same desire. One of our biggest, like I mentioned, mottos is about service. And so we feel that having a diverse class and a diverse group of students, as well as faculty and staff, really promotes that, because you never know what you may see once you are out in the workforce. You may end up in an area that you didn't expect to be underserved, or working with a specific population who is underserved, even though you may be in a suburban area. And so we're definitely looking for a very diverse group of applicants. So I would not discourage anyone from applying.
I didn't think you would either. It's definitely, it's important for students to kind of diversify. And really, when you're coming into this preparing as a pre-health student, you come in with these grand ideas. I'm going to be a surgeon, or I'm going to be this or that. And then you actually go through the school, you go through the rotations, and you realize that it's a completely different world, world than what you had expected. And so I think, coming in with that open mind is something that's really important.
Absolutely.
So as a new school, could you walk us through what the curriculum looks like at Sam Houston State?
So we do have a very integrated curriculum, and I'll let Dr. West dive into a little bit more about that. But it was something that we spent a lot of time on to make sure that the students get a very well-rounded education.
Yes, and something that I'll mention is that on our website, we do have essentially a curriculum guide that is more of a graphic visual interpretation. And then we have also another course curriculum piece that describes each course and kind of the brief synopsis of the course description. So that's helpful to utilize as you explore many options to kind of compare curriculums and things like that. So one of the things that I would say is kind of unique about our curriculum is that it is integrated. Of course, as an osteopathic medical school, we have an OMM course that runs all 4 years. And so a lot of it is lab, but there's some didactic pieces to that as well. One thing that we decided to do was to take our 2 long courses at the beginning of the first year, first semester. So our scientific foundations course and our clinical anatomy course, and divide it into 2 pieces. And so usually they run, for a longer amount of time, but just 1 course. And so, yes, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So if you see that, with that piece, what it enables us to do is help students with the transition. So educational affairs has different components to it, so different offices. We have the Office of Assessment, Evaluation, and Accreditation under Educational Affairs. We have the Office of Medical Student Affairs, which focuses on academic support and learning resources. And then we have the Office of Faculty Development and CME. So due to that, what we were able to do is in our Faculty Development and CME office, our educational program coordinators work with our faculty on the courses. In our Medical Student Affairs office, we have 2 learning specialists that are also actively engaged with our faculty to help students. And so the purpose of doing this with the split is so that we can provide support and resources early for students if they are having trouble making the transition. We'll do some assessments up front during orientation so that different things like learning strategies and approaches to dealing with the content and study techniques and learning styles are all taken into consideration so that we can tailor those support services to meet the needs of our students. So again, they're able to find out early on if what's working for them is working well or not. And we are able to, provide the support with respect to working with their faculty and the student to help them transition. So that's one way that I guess our curriculum is a little bit unique in the first semester. Again, as we get into the second semester of year 1 and then year 2, it's more systems-based courses, which is somewhat typical in a lot of medical schools. At least it is in the one that I was at previously. And then, but there's one more piece that is somewhat unique with year 2 and systems integration. So with that course, what we're going to do is look at the data from our students' performance all the way through. And if there are certain things that we need to go back and revisit or reinforce, this course is really going to integrate a lot of preparation for their COMLEX USA, the level 1 exam. And so what we'll do is we'll have some different things with respect to doing not just benchmarks, but doing study schedules and how you organize your time based on high yield topics and materials, and different check-ins with respect to meeting with our medical student affairs and learning specialist personnel to help tailor your study to meet your needs to reach your goals. And so again, with the first 2 years, that's kind of the synopsis of that. And then with our clerkship rotation, another piece that we have integrated is a clerkship preparation piece. And so it'll be where students are able to kind of revisit some of the clinical skills, H&P components, suturing skills, things like that, to enable them to transition into their clerkships. And then we have our clerkship rotations.
Excellent. It's a very robust curriculum here. And having that split and having the departments that support it, I think is going to be something that's going to be really key in the implementation of this curriculum. You mentioned the board exams, just kind of briefly. Are those different for osteopathic schools than they are for allopathic schools?
Yes, so our students will be required to take the COMLEX USA exams. And so there are 3 levels, which is similar to the USMLE Step 1 exams. And so some of our students may want to take both. And so we'll have support and resources for those students who decide that they would like to do that, depending on the residency they'd like to go into. I think some of that will transition a little bit with respect to, the single accreditation system and one match process as we move forward. But again, we'll have the support and resources for our students if they decide to also take the USMLE.
Yeah, and just to expand on that for everybody to be aware, the osteopathic schools now participate in the National Residency Match Program. And so all medical school students, whether they attend an allopathic or osteopathic school, can now go through that match program as well. And so I know that was such a huge hurdle for a lot of osteopathic students and osteopathic schools. And so seeing that development, I think, really encourages the establishment of a lot of new osteopathic schools and so many new opportunities because, from our discussion with Dr. Kennedy with TCOM, osteopathic medicine just kind of opens up a new tool set that physicians are able to bring with them into their practice. And so I think it's a really powerful thing. And I know I kind of dug into that a little bit because I know we have prepared a question for osteopathic versus allopathic philosophies. Do you have anything else that you'd like to share with students as they kind of make the decision on whether or not to apply to an osteopathic school?
So our clinical dean, Dr. McKernan, he is the DO who utilizes manipulation in practice. And so something that he indicated at one point to me really stuck with me, and that is the osteopathic manipulative practice essentially gives you an opportunity to have another tool for diagnosis and another tool for treatment. And so that was really, it really captured that for me. And so again, you have a lot of OMM in med school with respect to if you attend an osteopathic medical school. And that from the very beginning, you're engaged in that process, and it's like patient care from the beginning in a different way. In that it all integrates too. And so something that we're really working on, and we have a terrific dean and clinicians that are here that have really focused on it not being a separate component. It's really integrated. And so I think that piece and the tools that practice provides is really beneficial.
Excellent, thank you. Kind of on the same theme of the curriculum, we have a question here that came in asking about which hospital partnerships are available for rotations.
So we have right now, I'm trying to remember the last numbers because it kind of has evolved and we keep adding new ones, which is a good thing. There were 22 hospitals and clinics. And so I think the list is on our website, or maybe our regions are on our website, but I don't have that information in front of me. But again, the different regions that I talked about, Lufkin, Nacogdoches, Beaumont, Port Arthur, Ennis, Corsicana, I think Mahia as well, of course, Huntsville and Conroe Regional, HCA, Houston Healthcare. So those are a few.
Great. I did find it, so it's on here. And I will share the link with those of you who are watching this on our Facebook page.
Perfect.
Clinical sites. So it really is a kind of a far-reaching institution. I mean, that's quite the number of locations, especially considering that we're still a few years off from students actually going to clinical rotations.
Now, our clinical partners have been terrific and very excited about the opportunity to begin education in their hospitals and clinics. And so some of them haven't had education previously in their facilities. And so it's really exciting as we move forward to engage them in this process.
Absolutely. All right. Let me. All right, we got some feedback. That was quite a lot. Thanks for sharing. Awesome. We have another question here about the interviews for Sam Houston State. Um, just because this is the weirdest year, can we start off with what a typical interview day and cycle would look like, and then we will get into what the COVID-19 year cycle looks like.
So our last interview cycle, I personally was not part of it because I didn't come on board with the College of Osteopathic Medicine until March. But I have been well versed in how it happened last year so that we could plan for this year. But essentially, there were several education sessions that followed our president and dean's welcome. And so that was anything from curriculum and research to what services we have available to students. And then they also participated in group activities in addition to their actual interview on that day. And so the interviews that were conducted would be 2 interviewers to 1 student. To 1 student, they had 2 interviews during the day that were about 25 minutes each. And so during that time, our interviewers came from both faculty and staff within the College of Osteopathic Medicine, as well as faculty and staff from our main campus in Huntsville. We do have a unique structure where we do have shared services from our main campus. So a lot of the services that our undergraduate and graduate students benefit from on our main campus, our College of Osteopathic Medicine students would as well. And so we wanted to make sure that our applicants got a good feel for what they had here within the college, but also what the university had to offer them too. So this year, we will be having interviews virtually. And so that, as everyone knows, has really changed the game, but we have tried to include all of those same elements in this interview day as well, just because we wanted to make sure that nothing was lost, that they really do get a sense of what our college and what Sam Houston has to offer them. We are changing things up a little bit in our schedule this year. Last year, all of our interviews took place at the end of the day, but this year, based on student and faculty and staff feedback, there were several of our students that had wished for a morning interview slot. So we will be offering those as well. They will get to indicate that as part of their interview registration process. So we're excited to see how many choose that route and then what sort of feedback we get from those individuals. But we're excited. It's going to be very different, but we're all in this new normal. And so we're just going to do the best we can.
Yeah, and that's great that you're able to use the new platform to be a little bit more flexible to what students kind of prefer in terms of interview times. Working our way backward to the application, we have a question here that came into the TMDSAS video. Does Sam Houston State University accept AP credit to satisfy prerequisite coursework requirements as long as the corresponding coursework appears on the university transcript? So they have AP credit, they claimed credit at their university. Will Sam Houston accept it?
Yes.
Easy.
I feel like that doesn't need an explanation.
Nope. Yeah, and in those instances, just kind of some feedback from what we see at TMDSAS, you do want to make sure that whichever university granted the credit is the one that you include in your application. So if you claim the credit at a community college and then you end up going to a 4-year institution, you would enter the AP credit under the community college, and then that would be the transcript that you end up submitting once you receive an offer of admission. All right. We have another question about the overall timeline for the interview season this year. Obviously, with the application deadline being pushed back, and of course the TMDSAS match being pushed out even further, what does the timeline for interviews look like? And more specifically, the student wants to know when the interview invites will begin going out.
Great question. So like you shared, the timeline has been pushed back this cycle, and so we did the same with ours. So our application will remain open until 5 p.m. on December 20th, and we will be doing our interviews from late August, early September until the beginning of February. So we definitely wanted to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to submit their application. We know that some students are stressed about taking their MCAT and things like that. And so we wanted to make sure that we had a lot of opportunity for individuals to submit their application, but also to attend an interview day. As far as when interview invites will be coming out, that is something that we are working on. Our admissions team is currently putting together all of that. Because we are moving to a virtual format, we are also having to work on our technology as well. And so once that is up and running and we've done all of our checks, then we'll be able to start sending out interview invites. I know that doesn't give you a hard, fast date to be looking for something like that, but that's just the reality. But just keep checking your email because we will be getting those out soon.
And I think that kind of waiting game is applicable to any application cycle.
Yes, and we are playing the waiting game as well on our end to make sure that approvals, take place and different things are being implemented. So while your waiting is different than our waiting, I think we're all just kind of in this holding pattern for a little bit.
Right, and that's an answer that we've heard from every other school right now. There have been so many. It doesn't seem like a lot for the schools to say, we'll push back the deadline, but it really causes such a huge chain of events of clearing things through legal, making sure that we have the proper encryption for interviews, that we have everything set up. It's not just like clicking a button and then we're virtual. There's such an incredible amount of work that's gone into this. So thank you for being transparent about that.
Absolutely.
All right. We have a question about is there active community service or community involvement while somebody is a student at Sam Houston State College of Osteopathic Medicine?
So that is something that we are really excited for our inaugural class to work on. So since we are new, those avenues are still being established and they are so excited to get out into the communities. And we are excited to support them in those efforts as well. It's my understanding from speaking with some of our student affairs staff that the students are already putting together a spreadsheet of possible volunteer and community service locations or projects. And so, like I said, we are very excited to support that, that initiative with them. Main campus, like I said, our motto is the measure of a life is its service. So that is something that we really focus on. And there are several initiatives at the main campus that put students in the communities and serving the needs of the community. So I don't see why we'd be any different.
And I'll just add one piece to that. Our dean, Dr. Henley, he meets on a fairly consistent basis with the Office of Community Engagement at main campus. And so they have already established partnerships and are embedded in the community. The other thing his big interest is community-based participatory research. And so he has done quite a bit in that area. And so he really looks forward to integrating our students in the communities.
Dr. Henley is such a great person. I've had the honor of meeting him a few times, and his heart is just so enormous and is directed at so many great initiatives. So we're about halfway through our session right now, and I wanted to take some time to explore the overall application review process right now. Obviously applications have been going out to all of the schools as of June 1st. And as people will see on the TMDSAS website, we are going through applications as quickly as possible. But we have this huge wave of applications that are coming in as well. And we're really excited for everybody's continued engagement in pursuing this career and pursuing this this journey. But I want to talk about the overall kind of like admissions review process at Sam Houston. First off, is there an actual MCAT cutoff score for you all?
No, we do not have an MCAT cutoff. We want to make sure that every applicant's application is reviewed, and we do employ a holistic review process. And like I said, every single application we receive is going to be reviewed regardless of what MCAT score.
Excellent, thank you. The second question is, you all use Casper as well, and we've talked to some of the other schools that use Casper, and there are just so many different ways that Casper could be used, either to screen students in or screen them out of the process, or you use it later on in the admissions process or at the very beginning. Is there anything that any insight you can give us into how the Casper is used at Sam Houston?
So right now, during the last cycle, we did not use Casper. So this is our first time to use Casper. And so that's something that the college as well as the admissions committee is working through, how we want to implement that in our review process and what that looks like moving forward. But that is a new thing for us that we're excited to explore as an extra piece to our application.
All right. And then in addition to Casper, there's a secondary application that's required. Is there any advice that you can offer students as they go through the secondary application?
The secondary application is a great opportunity for them to just show our reviewers and our admissions committee who they are, really being transparent, talking about their passions. It's just an extra piece for us to get to know them as an individual. And so I think based on the questions that we have, they can really dive in and provide some of their background, some of their experiences that may not show on an application. I know we had spoken a little bit earlier about non-traditional students. They have a lot of really great life experiences, and that is a perfect opportunity to share that with our admissions committee. So I would just say, just tell us everything. Let us know who you are and what you want to do so that we can really get to know you as an individual.
And I know I get this question a lot, so I'm sure you all get it as well. Does it matter if it's a topic or an idea that's already been discussed in their primary application to bring it up again in their secondary application?
I think that's completely fine. I think the more we can see and understand about you as an individual, the better. But if you want to expand on that situation or experience again, we're happy to review it.
The only thing I would add to that, I've had the opportunity to see applications and secondaries from 2 different institutions. And the only thing I would say is that even if the topic kind of fits the prompt for the secondary, please don't cut and paste. And so that's
good feedback.
Right, because you don't want to see it in the application from TMDSAS as well as the same, I guess, the same essay or whatever in the secondary. Please do tailor it to the question. Even if it's the same experience or similar experience, definitely modify it so that the reviewer doesn't get a sense that there were any shortcuts taken or anything like that. And again, we don't get to know you any better if it's the same.
Exactly. So as far as the overall process, at what point does the school send out the secondary applications to students?
So as soon as we start receiving those from you guys, we go ahead and begin sending that supplemental application. And it does come to you as a link in an email. We have had several students report to us that they have found the emails in their junk folder. And that's just through the spam filters that Yahoo and Gmail and everyone else employs. So if you haven't received an invitation for a supplemental application, check there or contact our office. We're happy to resend that information to you if you feel like you should have gotten one and didn't. But yeah, it's as soon as we get the application, we start sending ours out as well.
Great. You just need the primary application. It's not contingent on having an MCAT score available or having letters submitted. It's just when the primary application comes in.
Correct.
Excellent. And then the next question is, at what point do you begin extending interview invitations? Like, when is an application complete for interview invitations to start coming out?
Yeah, so we are looking for, the scores and the letters of recommendation and the Caspers before we start our review process. And so we do wait for all of those items to come in, and at that point, we consider the application to be complete. And then following the screening process, we send out interview invitations, and that is a rolling process. We continue to do that throughout the season. Like I mentioned, our application is going to be open until December 20th. And so we will continue to review applications and invite for interviews through January and into February.
Excellent. All right. Trying to catch up with all the questions coming in, making sure we are on topic. Excellent. Somebody was asking about the average MCAT and GPA, but as you mentioned earlier, those won't be released until the census date when all of the students are officially enrolled at the campus.
Exactly.
All right. Let's see. So as as we've talked to all of the different schools that are part of TMDSAS, we learn about how, for the most part, the mission is very similar. We want to train people who are going to practice medicine in Texas. We want to definitely focus on primary care. But what kind of unique opportunities are available to students by going to Sam Houston State?
So we talked a little bit about how our curriculum is different, how we are employing different measures to make sure that students have the best education and support through the program. And then we also talked about the shared services model with our main campus. And so that really opens the door to a lot of services that are available to our students that they can truly benefit from. As far as what unique opportunities, things are changing every day, and this is our first year. And so there's a lot of unique opportunities that I know are going to be coming down the line, but especially for our first class. They're the inaugural class. And so they're going to have a lot to do with the development of different areas within the college. And so a lot of different unique leadership opportunities and things like that. So we will be expanding our opportunities for students as we continue to grow and move forward. But right now, those are the ones that come to mind. But Dr. West, if you have others that you can think of or know about.
So I think as we looked at our clinical training sites, there are many opportunities to have a variety of experiences. So I would say that would be a unique feature. I can't say enough about our shared services, and we work on a daily basis with shared services so that students don't see where student affairs leaves off and medical student affairs picks up, because it's so seamless and integrated. And there are so many programs and the strength in numbers with respect to the main campus, and we're the 8th college. We truly are. Our shared services is unique, a unique feature in medical schools. I don't know of many that utilize that model, but from the beginning, that was the plan. So, enrollment management, student affairs, IT, SHSU online. I can't name all of them because there are so many. And students, they just have the robustness, I guess, of the resources and the support and just the culture of the main campus extending to the COM. We're student oriented, and our faculty are collaborative, and our staff are strong, and they're very dedicated. We work hard. There are so many things that we have open door policies. And so all of those pieces, you put them together, and it's very student facing student forward. And everything that we do is kind of centered around that. So I think those pieces, it makes it unique. I didn't share earlier, and I am a Bearcat as well. And so I was able to come back to Sam Houston to work on this endeavor, and it's been terrific. I can't say enough about our faculty, staff, and our future students that will be here. They'll be our current students soon. It's been a neat opportunity to be engaged in this process. So we look forward to seeing what the future holds.
Great.
Yeah, and to expand on what Dr. West said, prior to being here, I worked on main campus, and there is something about the culture there, just a culture of support for students. The university as a whole does see a lot of first generation students, and so a lot of the programs and support services that are available are very dedicated to making sure that students, especially first generation students, are set up and have the tools and resources available to be successful. And so, like Dr. West said, all of that is something that we benefit from as well, and so will our students.
And something I also wanted to talk about is, you all are the third osteopathic school in Texas. We went from 1 to 3 in within 10 years. But we were talking about the collaborative nature of the other campuses. I think it's something important for a lot of students to know that as TMDSAS, we are an application service, and we do provide support to the schools and support to applicants. But there's a collaborative environment among each one of the schools. And not to put you on the spot, but could you share a little bit of the insight into how some of the other schools may have kind of jumped up to help with questions that may have come up in the establishment of a lot of processes?
So I'll let Dr. West answer that one since she has been here longer than me. But I will say that just in the time that I've been here and part of TMDSAS, along with the other member institutions, anytime that I have a question, they are so willing to share their experience or share documents. And that's something that I cherish because they have experience that I don't have, that I'm still learning. But anyways, I'll let Dr. West answer.
Sure. So I know our admissions team went and visited several schools and even sat in on their interview days. And I mean, very, very supportive, very collaborative, willing to share again any information, answer questions. I mean, we still ask questions about different things, policy related and things like that, that the schools are willing to share. I've worked with Philo Maldonado at A&M at my previous institution, and so he's been terrific. But I mean, I can't say enough about the whole group. Very collaborative. I know I've heard of other application systems, and not everyone is as collaborative as they are with TMDSAS. And so I think that's really something to brag about with respect to that in Texas.
Yeah, and I think it's important for students to recognize that how you interact with each one of the schools, it reflects on you personally, and it reflects on you as an applicant. And when there are issues, these are definitely the types of things that we communicate with the other schools, and communicate not just within TMDSAS, but also with ACOMAs and with MCAS or ADSAS or VMCAS. We fully believe in the integrity of students, and I really wanted to emphasize the point that we have such a collaborative environment at TMDSAS that we've seen at this point 17 schools join us for these courage sessions. I mean, that is something that's really incredible, that we're able to kind of like peel back the curtain and see everything that's going on, and be very transparent about a lot of issues that we're facing, and kind of reaching out to students and helping with a lot of the issues that we're going through. Looking forward to this new COVID life that we're all facing, visiting campuses isn't something that's easy. And some campuses even still have uh, blocks in place from the public from being able to visit the campus. But are there any works for virtual tours or information sessions that students can attend to learn more about the school?
Absolutely. So currently we do have a brief building tour video on our website. And we are working on putting some other things in place as well. And in fact, I think it's next week we have a meeting coming up amongst some of our faculty and staff regarding how we want to move forward with tours and virtual tours and things like that. Even if we don't have an information session scheduled, we encourage you to give our office a call, send us an email. We are here to help you, to educate you, to support you through this journey. And so we have several staff members who answer those emails and phone calls. And so if you have questions, don't hesitate. That's what we're here for, is to help you guys make the best choices for your future.
Great. I'm looking for the link to the virtual tour so we can share it with our group.
And I'll look too. I feel like it always takes me a minute to find it.
Oh, we'll find it and we'll share it on here so that folks can take a look at that, because as we see behind Dr. West, it's a beautiful campus.
It is, and we're really sad because we have so many amazing spaces in this facility that are geared towards collaboration and students spending time together, and we're sad that they're not going to get to use it in the way it was intended, but we know hopefully in the future they'll be able to use it. But it's a beautiful facility, lots of open space, large windows, which is a really great space to be in. And so we're excited to have our first class here, and many of them haven't even seen the building in person because when we did our what would traditionally have been a second look day, we held that virtually. Their interview day was held at another one of our satellite campuses because our facility was still being built. So they have not seen our facility. And so, I mean, they're excited. We're excited.
And actually, as we were talking, Keith actually shared the link. So thank you, Keith.
Thanks, Keith.
Because the virtual tour, I think, is something that's really important. As you're exploring the different schools, you want to see the campuses, and we might miss that new building smell for a while, but I think it's really there's a lot to speak into the design of the architecture and kind of the thought process and how that aligns with the curriculum. Because as you mentioned, collaborative learning spaces are huge right now, unfortunately, for the current situation. But that's just the nature of medicine. We see a lot of interprofessional collaboration, and it's at the forefront of a lot of opportunities and challenges with what we're facing.
One piece I wanted to mention is that we do have, on our mezzanine level, we have rooms for 4 learning communities. And so our students are split into the 4 groups, and they have designated space. And then they have kind of a collaborative space, as well as a place to store, their meals and microwaves and things like that. And so the whole mezzanine is really dedicated to our students and their learning communities. So that's kind of a unique feature. Also, our lecture hall area or teaching theater, we have 2 rows per tier so that students can turn around, and they have a whiteboard behind the second tier. And so that they can do TDL type work in that particular room. And there is projection at both sides of the room, so that if they're facing one way, they can see the PowerPoint or whatever it is, as well as the other way. And then we have an active learning classroom that also can be configured in multiple ways. And it also is kind of set up the same way, except for no whiteboards, but it's a flat floor facility. And then we have an additional multi-purpose room that can be divided into 2 that allows you to configure it different ways. In addition to, of course, a research lab, an OMM clinical skills lab, a SIM center and OSCE or patient care clinic component with SPs. So we have all of those pieces and we're really excited. We are actually rotating our students into the building in their learning communities. So they'll be in small groups for lab components. And so during orientation, they'll come in on Monday in those learning communities and kind of get oriented to the building. And that'll be when enrollment management admissions takes them essentially on their mini tour. So that's their first look at the building.
That sounds fantastic. So many great opportunities, and for PBL, problem-based learning, that's the type of space that you need. So that's kind of what we meant with how the architecture is influenced by the curriculum. So I know we were talking about non-traditional students earlier. Do you have any advice for how non-traditional students can stand out in their application? I mean, obviously we all, everybody talks about how great non-traditional students are. Right before we started this call, we were just, gushing about how awesome non-traditional students are. But do you have any tangible advice that you share with students who come forward and kind of say, I'm on a different journey here. What should I do?
So the first thing I would say is embrace your journey, because you have a very unique story to tell that not all of our applicants get to tell. And so let those life experiences come out in your essays, in your interview, and all of your interaction with our faculty and staff, because you as an individual being diverse and having a diverse background really adds to the classroom. And so we want to make sure that non-traditional students are not missed in any way. And so I would just say, show us all your experience, tell us your story in every possible avenue that you can.
I think that's fantastic advice. And, in telling your story, the help of an advisor is something that's really critical. And I know a lot of non-traditional students have issues with trying to find advisors. Do make an effort to reach out to the advisor on your campus. Pretty much every college and university in Texas has a health professions advisor. We know because we know them from attending our annual meetings with the advisors for the health professions. If you cannot get a hold of an advisor, or if you don't have access to an advisor, say for some students who may be on a smaller campus, there's a volunteer advisor service that is available to you, and it is. I will share the link on our discussion here. It's available through the National Association of Advisors for the Health Professions, and it's essentially a database of volunteer advisors who are ready to help anybody who may have lack of access to an advisor. And so you can send an email to request to be paired with a volunteer advisor, and they're there to help you, because crafting that application, crafting that the story that you're trying to tell of your journey and how it applies to each one of the schools, it really does require some help. And these advisors are perfectly trained to help you. Whether you're a non-traditional student or traditional or have military experience, advisors are your best bet. So kind of winding down now with our courage session here, these are meant to help provide students with a little bit of added courage. We've had so many setbacks with MCATs being canceled and timelines shifting. What advice do you have for students, kind of recognizing that there's so many changes going on, not just for this application cycle, but also implications for future application cycles? What advice do you have for them?
That is a really good question. First, I would say make sure you take care of yourself. Wellness is really important. So make sure, as things are changing, they're so fluid. We know that a lot of you have plans, and maybe your plans have changed, and just embrace that. There's nothing wrong with changing paths or adapting your path based on what's happening. So outside of making sure that you are well, I would say find the ways that you can achieve the things that you want to achieve. If you had a research project that, was cut short because of COVID, or you're not able to get out into the community and do volunteer work like you had hoped over the summer or something like that, find other ways. I mean, the entire world is living in this very virtual space right now. And so there's a lot of different ways that you can still serve virtually. And so I would say, get creative, use your resources. I mean, you have Google at your fingertips. So just really dig into other ways that you can get something accomplished that you may not have thought of before. I know that there's different opportunities within the healthcare field virtually to get experience, to observe, shadow, scribe, and so take advantage of those opportunities as well. And then outside of that, figure out how your experience through COVID has impacted you and what you've done as an individual to grow, because this is a major growing opportunity for a lot of people. And so really reflect on how these changes have adapted you as a person and grown you as a person, and then make sure that that's reflected in your essays and your interviews.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah, I would say, just to add a little bit to that, is stay the course. So even if your timeline is a little bit off or whatever, be resilient. Mm-hmm. Keep your goals in mind and keep just making progress toward those. And if you need help, ask for help. If you need information, ask for information. Don't hesitate to reach out and ask, because there are people that are here to help you reach your goals. And it may be one step at a time, and that's okay. As long as you keep that vision and you keep working toward it, you will achieve it if you continue to work. So I know things come up and we have to be flexible, and we're unfortunately having to react some, and we like to be proactive. Everyone likes to plan, and I have a checklist and a to-do list, and I like to just be, methodical and check the things off in order, but things, come to the front of that list, and I have to be able to adapt. And just be ready to adapt, but keep your goals in mind and reach out and ask for help if needed.
Yeah, I think, one of the few silver linings in this whole situation is that there's unity in knowing that we're all going through the same thing. And, the implications for that maybe on the application, down the line, we may see additional questions around, what did you do during this time period? But I think you've both really challenged students to make the best of the situation and not let it hinder you. It's all about adjusting your sails. And I think that is the best idea to bring this current session to an end. So Dr. West, Rebecca, thank you both so much. We recognize that this is the busiest time of the application cycle, so thank you so much for taking the time to answer our students' questions and allowing us to kind of reintroduce the Sam Houston State University College of Osteopathic Medicine. We're really excited to have you as part of TMDSAS.
Awesome. Thank you so much for inviting us to do this, and thank you to everyone who watched live or watched the recorded version of this. We were really excited to have the opportunity. And like we've said, if you have questions, please reach out to us. Our staff is so happy to help you guys, to educate you and support you and guide you in your journey to becoming a physician.
That's great. Yes, thanks again. And really don't hesitate to reach out. This is a great group. We have a great team, and we're here to help you.
Excellent. So on behalf of Sam Houston State's College of Osteopathic Medicine and TMDSAS and the Texas Health Education Service, we'd like to wish all of our students, current and future, all the best of luck in your application. Keep at it, keep persisting, because it's going to be worth it if this is the path that you want. Thank you very much, and we'll see you later.